Hey Sol, so we are
Hi,
here to
Nicole.
talk about what exactly is Latin 1, this course that we've created through Practica program. So the course is officially called Latin 1 Mechanics. The interesting thing about it is it's not quite an introduction to type design, but it's also not an intermediate course.
Yeah, that's true. The idea is like students will refine their skills through Latin 1. That means relearning the foundations. So students gain more confidence, polishing and finishing their typefaces or polishing their craft designing typefaces. So, for instance, some of our core topics are like we have a discussion or introduction talking about the difference between designing typefaces for text versus display. Also, we cover spacing. The idea is like putting a methodology behind spacing. Another topic like we cover is drawing with Bestia curves. Again, no, the idea is getting precision, drawing the letters. Also, we, for instance, talk about the contrast, the stroke contrast. Um, the idea is like to train students' eyes so they can spot when they need to adjust the contrast. Yeah, also we talk about the optical correction, and I think this is a very interesting discussion. So we'll talk about the differentiation about measuring things when you are drawing your letters and doing adjustment optically, and how sometimes our eye is yes is a better tool than measuring. So yeah, we also touch these topics multiple times. It's not like just one class. So we are during the 6 weeks we are talking these multiple times.
Yeah, and that's a good point, is that we don't just talk about things, right? We actually
Mhm.
put them into practice. So the structure of the course is that we have a lecture day that's 1.5 hours, that's on Thursday. And then we also have a longer like feedback session or file review day, and that's on Tuesday, that's 2.5 hours. So what
Mhm.
happens is we have lectures on Thursday. And then, we introduce a new concept. We might talk about what is, how do you start a typeface? What letters do you start with a typeface? Or we might start with how to use space, what's the spacing methodology, like you mentioned. And then we actually, have you do a little bit of homework and put those things into practice. So it's not just about, like, it's not just a theoretical discussion about these things. We actually put it into practice. And then on that file review day or the feedback session day, we're giving you feedback on your typeface specifically. So you're getting really direct professional feedback. And I know the other thing that's cool is we do file reviews, and that's really your area.
Yes.
So that's your
Yes,
bread and butter,
that
because
was
you're
I'm
like
going
a
to
you're
mention.
like a glyphs master.
The idea is like to open font files. Uh, is to also to find the balance, because usually we do proofing tests through creating PDF or like other documentations, and that's one way of seeing things or our typeface. But we also open font files, and the idea behind that is like to for instance, review vertical metrics, see how the point placements are, or I know we also like we learn how to have like a good, let's say, process if we want to test different ideas in our typeface. Let's say we want to, I don't know, test different designs of one letter, how we can do that in an easy way. The idea is like also of opening Glyphs files is to learn a little bit of the workflow of a professional type designer using a font editor. Because I know like we all have our own ways of doing things, but it's also like when you don't work with other type designers next to you, where you can like see how they do while I don't know, designing on a font editor. I think it's very important to share that knowledge so students also can have a wider uh, view of how to use a font editor and how they can improve the technical aspect of their own font files.
So we created Latin 1 because these
Mhm.
are these topics, drawing, spacing, proofing, they're what we saw in our students of our longer course, or at the time it was 14 weeks, now it's 15-week course. They're things that we consistently saw that students just needed a little buttressing, they needed a little help with. So Latin 1 is really the way it's designed is to be taken also with Latin 2. So you can take
Yes.
Latin 1 separately. Latin 1 is a 6-week course, or if you want, you can then move on to take Latin 2, which is our longer now 15-week course. And in that course, you come with the typeface just like you would in Latin 1. For Latin 1, we expect that you have a typeface that you plan to work on. But then in Latin 2, you take that and you actually build it into a multi-weight family. So most students start with a single weight and then they, build out a bold, or if they started with a bold, they build out a regular, and then we learn how to interpolate, which if you're interested in what that is and what that means, then maybe Latin 2 is for you. The last thing that I'll say is the cool thing about taking Latin 1 is normally you have to apply for Latin 2 and be accepted. But if you take Latin 1, we sort of already understand what your foundation is. It's Latin 1. So then, as long as you have a typeface that you're interested in working on, then you can take Latin 2. You don't need to apply. You can just enroll. I think with that, Sol, we should do some
Yes.
goodbyes.
Yes, if anyone has more questions about Latin 1, don't hesitate to contact us, to send a message or an email.